When I started looking at being a Scrum Master and looking into the Agile stuff, I started to realize how much interesting industry knowledge Northcoders has actually given me that other people didn't have, like the pair programming stuff. Somebody goes to uni won't learn that stuff. Like I've worked with the guys that go to uni. They have a really good understanding of some more complicated stuff, but the actual underlying principles of how do I write OOP, how do I write TDD, and how do I make that work, they just don't get it. That's what I say. I've spent my time teaching those people that stuff. I've taught uni guys using some of the principles that Northcoders set up for me when I first started. And some of the stuff that I've learned along the way. My name is Billy Briar Sharps. I can't remember exactly which year it was. I graduated from Northcoders. I think it was about 3 years ago now. So now I am a software engineer as well as being a Scrum Master. A Scrum Master is somebody that understands the concepts of Scrum and Agile and tries to help a team. So Northcoders, you'll talk about things like paired programming. The ideas of things like paired programming and stuff like that go into this idea of being Agile. So the idea of being a Scrum Master is that I kind of stand back from the team itself and try to help them get to where they need to be rather than showing them where they need to be. Originally, I was a team leader and I was an engineer in more traditional engineering methods. So I was basically a physical engineer. My discipline is something that not a lot of people have heard of. I was a blender. So essentially, I was what I would class as a finish specialist. When people were making physical parts for planes, it was my job to make sure that the last little bits were finished. So things like we were making sure there was no sharp edges on them, making sure that the surface finish was correct. It was heavily involved in things like the R&D of new parts, as well as being heavily involved with our quality department at the time and making sure essentially we were a barrier between the traditional engineers that were working on machines and that quality department. During lockdown, like a lot of other people, I tried to follow some of my previous passions. So the reason I ended up in software is not necessarily because I wanted to do software. I'd always wanted to make video games. I know there's a lot of people in our industry that have always wanted to make video games. I love video games. It is my main hyper-focus, it's my main passion, even still to now. I started learning through a resource called Bootcamp. I started learning HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript through there. The parts of the reason I was looking at doing that is I was looking at understanding the basics of coding so that I could get on to trying to learn something like Unity. And then the thing that I actually ended up learning was Godot. I had a recommendation for Northcoders from several people that I already knew. During the late 2019, kind of 2020, as that was transitioning, I'd known a couple of people that had got into software engineering and were working in local companies and other places that were all alumni, essentially, of Northcoders. On the Northcoders Bootcamp, I really enjoyed getting introduced to a lot of the basics. So I said that I'd kind of gone away and tried to learn some basic HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. I will say that when I tried to do my original test to get into Northcoders, I failed my first one, but then I did a lot of studying to get in on my second one. Must be said that during that training period, it was really useful that Northcoders were running some like drop-in sessions that some of the people that wanted to get onto Northcoders that they could actually go and take part in. So I went to those drop-in sessions and they turned out to be really useful. And then essentially I came back and mashed through the roof my second attempt at the pass at the test, which was really, really, really good, really affirming. With regards to Northcoders and how it's really set me up for my time in the industry, it's been interesting that getting into this industry, what constitute as software engineering can be a lot more varied than you might think. Northcoders really taught me some of those solid underlying principles. So there are a lot of things in software engineering that I think are really important that you probably should know. There is a certain type of programming that you will come into contact with when you look at Agile. and they call it more extreme programming, and it's just the name. It's not actually extreme. It's a bit of a silly name. But a lot of those principles that I've found from looking more into Agile and things like extreme programming, and so there's something called Kanban. Looking at those things, Northcoders really set me up for that basic standard knowledge, as well as giving me a good foothold in understanding how the programming languages and different things that we can use interact with those programming languages. So yeah, it really set me up for that. I would say that if you want to do Northcoders, you want to make sure that before you do it, you actually want to do Northcoders. As a software engineer, one of the things that you need to do, as well as I previously mentioned, you need to be a problem solver, but you also need to be a learner. And I think that if you want to apply to Northcoders and do it, you need to also have that drive to be a learner, because Northcoders will not necessarily solve that problem, but if you have a drive to learn and to be a better software engineer, it'll set you up for getting a place in the industry. A person that is not driven to learn how to do things, produce things, and to make things, and to essentially have something to show, be proud of something, you may not do as well in that environment. But if that is you, then you definitely should give Northcoders a try.